Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and get started. So good morning, everyone. Today is February 12th. Well, good morning for me, because I'm in Mountain Standard Time. So for me, it's 9 a.m. I know for some of you, it may perhaps be another time in the day. I'm Mike Arpaia. I'm the release lead shadow for 114. Pleasure to be hosting your release team meeting today. This is the first European time zone meeting that we're going to do for the 114 release. So if this goes well, we'll continue doing this every release. And if people find it helpful, let me know and we'll keep them going. But yeah, this is just to make sure that there's a bit of a friendlier time for people in other time zones, because we have a pretty wide distribution on the release team, especially this release. Reminder, this is a recorded meeting. It's going to be posted on the internet. So, you know, follow the Kubernetes code of conduct, which basically boils down to don't be a jerk. Alrighty. So as far as how this meeting is going to go, there's a release team meeting yesterday that some of you were at. Some of you might not have been at it. So what I'm going to do is basically give a brief summary of the release lead section. Oh yeah, great. Please, thank you, Jeff. So please go to that doc that Jeff just posted, which is the release team meeting minutes, and put your name under the attendees so that we can just, you know, track who comes and make sure that, you know, we're taking notes. I'll take notes today. We're only going to take notes for the open discussion section at the end, which brings me back to how the meetings can go. So I'm going to give an update on the release lead section, basically summarize what Aaron talked about yesterday, and then we can go through each lead section. And if there's someone here who is representing that team, then they for sure can summarize like what's going on in their world. And if not, I've watched the video, so I'm happy to summarize as well. So since there's only a few of us today, one thing I want to do, just so we can all perhaps get to know each other a little more. I mean, I know some of you already to varying degrees, but I would love to just go around, introduce yourself, say, are you in a European time zone, or are you just joining because you happen to be awake? What team, what like role are you on, lead or shadow, and what have you, and just get to know each other. That's cool. So I'm Mike. Like I said, I am the release lead shadow. I have previously worked on release notes as well, and that's me. Yeah, happy to be here. I don't live in Europe, but I like waking up early sometimes.
I'll go next since I'm left of you on my screen. My name's Jeffrey Sika. I'm the release notes shadow for this release, and I figured we should try and have representatives from each team on here, and I wasn't sure if anyone else from release notes was going to hop on, so I hopped on. And I'm in Eastern time zone, so it's like 11 o'clock for me. So this is more or less my lunch.
Nice, thank you for joining.
Hello, everybody. I'm Hannes. I'm in London, so I'm in the European time zone. I am currently for this release the release branch management lead. Yeah, that's about it.
I don't hear anyone going, so I'll take it. Hi everyone, my name is Jorge Alarcón. I'm actually a shadow for the CI Signal team. I'm in the US, so lunch time for me, but yeah, just seeing how things are going here.
Nice. Pendia, Alexander, do you guys want to say hi?
Hi, I'm Alexander Konevsky. I work for Intel. I'm based in Finland. I was mostly participating in AV6, like cluster lifecycle, SIG-node, resource management, and so on. For me, it's always was interesting to see like what is happening in release team. Unfortunately, for me, it was like really late in the night. So happy to see what there is some European activity I don't know if I can contribute this cycle much to it, but let's see. Maybe next cycle I will be a bit more active in this team as well.
You said you were a part of a SIG cluster lifecycle, and what was the other
Yes.
SIG?
Well, I'm following what is done in SIG because of some of our hardware features.
Awesome, awesome, great, cool SIGs, nice. Pendia?
Pod related things and conformance test related, conformance coverage. Mostly I'm working on test cases, creating E2E or conformance, then pod related things also. Just I started. Actually, I'm contributing for releasing team from this 1.4 release. So we 1.14 release.
What role would that be? Test infra?
Conformance related test, conformance test, and E2E.
Cool, nice, very cool, very cool.
Actually, pod related things here, pod related test cases.
Nice. Great. Well, awesome. I think, since it's a smaller meeting, that makes it much more personal now that we've all gotten to know each other. So cool. So I'm going to go through Aaron's updates. And if, my internet's been a little flaky today. So if I start to break up, just either send a message or wave your arms and I'll shut off my video. And I know you'll all be sad, but it'll probably make for higher throughput communication. So, most notably, we're halfway through the release this week. Today is Tuesday, is v.114.0 alpha 3 is being cut. So that's awesome. Hannes can probably talk more about that and how that's going. Perhaps that's underway, who knows? But that section's coming soon. We have burn down in 2 weeks, which is a noteworthy thing that I think everyone is preparing for. And if you're wondering when the 114 release is finally going to be cut, that's going to be in just under 6 weeks, so like 5 weeks, 6 days on a Monday. So that's really exciting. It's getting pretty close. And it's going to get really busy really quickly over the next few weeks. So that's awesome. And if you were wondering how you can know when all of these dates are, Aaron put together a release team calendar for 114. So we've had this kind of thing for a few other releases in the past. And it's really useful. It's basically just, exactly what it sounds like, a shared Google Calendar. And if anyone's not familiar with that, I'm happy to share my screen and show this. I did pull up, I was going through the notes yesterday, that there were a few things where people were referring to certain things about KEPs, the enhancements. Oh, okay. All right, I'll shut my video off. Is that better? Can you guys hear me now? Hopefully, all right. So I noticed there's a few, I don't know if my internet is going to allow it, but I did notice that there's a few docs and web pages and various things that different roles use as a part of their role. So if anyone is interested in any of them, I'm happy to share my screen and pull them up just to show y'all where you can get at this information. But yeah, that's that. So we have a shared calendar now. If you need a link to it, it's in the minutes. So add that to your calendar. It's good stuff. Yeah, and the last thing that Aaron talked about was reviewing the KEPs. So enhancements, CI signal, docs, release notes, all have kind of explicit things that are different that they should be looking for through the KEPs. So just familiarize yourself with, go through the issues, click the milestones, look at the 114 milestone, see what KEPs are in there. This is also roughly analogous to the enhancements tracking spreadsheet. So check that out as well if you prefer that format. But just get familiar with what KEPs are going in. Get an understanding for the feature set, look through the KEPs if you're on release notes, for example, and you see things that are in the KEPs that aren't in the release notes or vice versa, this is noteworthy. So stuff like this, pay attention to the graduation criteria and the testing checklist and stuff like this, and just make sure that we're on top of what's going into the release, because we're trying to make the enhancements the primary representation of what's going into the release. And I think, in my opinion, that's definitely the most significant change that's happening with this release is our commitment to KEPs. And so far, so good. So, and I don't think there's anyone from enhancements here, so I will just continue talking about KEPs. And basically, 2 weeks ago was the KEP deadline, and that was kind of, I don't want to say contentious, but exciting. We'll say it was exciting, and a lot of people had things that they were working on that they didn't yet get to write KEPs for, or they had the issues, but the KEP wasn't merged. Basically, the KEP deadline, what we wanted was for the KEP to be merged with this, like the document in the enhancements repository to be merged with a status of implementable. And that was not the case for a good fair bit of the KEPs. So there were 7 exceptions improved for a total of 40 enhancements now for 1.14, 12 alpha features, 14 beta features, and 10 stable features. Now this week, the enhancements team is basically going through all the KEPs, making sure that they have an accurate representation of what's going in, making sure there's nothing that's missed, making sure there's not going to be anything complicated with any, feature development that's going on that perhaps doesn't have KEP yet, and stuff like this. So that's awesome. If you have feedback on the KEPs process, please talk to Claire, myself, Ben, or obviously Aaron, and we'd love to talk to you. Great. That's KEP, and that's enhancements. Any questions about enhancements or the like any of the things I talked about in the release lead update? Great, cool. I'm gonna try turning my video back on, and if it's wildly flailing, just Jeff, leave your arms again or something. Awesome, awesome. Is there anyone on? I know a few more people joined. Is there anyone here from CI or on the CI Signal team?
Yes, I am.
Oh, awesome. Do you wanna like give a summary of kind of the what's going on in CI Signal?
So let me see. So actually, this morning I just sent out the CI Signal report. If you guys want to go look more in depth at it. Other than that, things seem to be getting a little bit better. Last couple of weeks was a bit of a big red blob on test grid. There are now only 2 failing tests on master blocking. A lot of the flaky ones have been resolved in the last couple of days. We're still working on master upgrade. They seem to be a lot of the failures were related to things failing on the SIG storage and the SIG node were SIG node and network, if I remember correctly, and we're working on those.
I believe it was SIG clustered lifecycle network, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, there were also a couple of SIG cluster lifecycle, which
Nice.
still working on those as well.
Awesome, awesome. Nice, very good, very good. Any questions for CI Signal? All right, excellent. Next up is bug triage. Is there anyone here from bug triage? Okay, no worries. For bug triage, yesterday, Nico talked about 3 topics basically in the meeting. The first was that metrics look normal so far, but the second topic he made note of was that we still have 3 weeks until freeze. So there's still a lot of active development that's happening, and that's going to continue to happening, or it's going to continue to happen. So we need to be mindful of the fact that things could change at any moment, and constant vigilance. Nico also enumerated 3 proposals for tracking automation updates. So if this is interesting to you, then please check out his 3 proposals and offer feedback. I don't want to do anyone a disservice by trying to explain his proposals, so I won't, but they are on the minutes, so please check them out. Are there any questions about anything with regards to bug triage? All right, great. I'm going to mute real quick and sharpen my pencil. All right, thanks for bearing with me. Next up is Test Infra. Is there anyone here from Test Infra? No, okay, no worries, no worries. No worries. Okay, so for Test Infra, there were a number of interesting stats last week. So there were 113 PRs merged last week, which is a statistic that SIG testing and Test Infra tracks rather closely. Which is awesome. There's also a PR up for adding the 114 CI jobs. A lot of aspects of, testing and releasing each release happen via CI. So they the team has added the CI jobs. And there's also some new automation for creating these jobs so that in future releases, it will not be as much of a manual process to create these CI jobs for, 115 and on. So that's awesome. There unfortunately were Prow and GitHub outages last week that everyone had to contend with, but unfortunately, software goes out sometimes. We live with it. Any questions for test infrastructure related things? All right, awesome. So after test infrastructure is docs. Is there anyone here from docs? Pendia, do you mind muting if you get a chance? So for docs, I will just, there were no significant updates really last week, other than the fact that docs and release notes are going to be syncing up to kind of, synergize a little bit. And the person who was doing the docs update yesterday, Jim, referenced how, people had told him from, SIG docs to chat with the release notes folks. I also, after last KubeCon, after I gave my release notes lightning talk, had a conversation with Jen from SIG docs, and we had dinner and it was great, and we talked about a lot of different docs and release notes things. So I agree with the SIG docs folks that SIG docs and or the docs lead and the release notes lead have a lot of potential hashtag synergies that could be made. So I agree there. Any questions for docs before we get into release notes? So release notes is actually extremely well represented today. So Jeff or Lindsay feel free.
I'll do this one because Lindsay did yesterday, if you don't mind. So we had a meeting yesterday to kind of get both docs, communications, and release notes on the same page. And really that was mainly Aaron talking with the comms people to figure out the blog schedule and just letting docs and release notes know if there's something relevant, please let them know ahead of time because we're going to be the ones in the weeds actually paying attention to that sort of thing. Also yesterday, Lindsay updated the release notes draft for the week. So if people want to take a look and see what's been updated, that would be good. That's in the SIG release repo under 114. What else has been happening? We've started to gather themes from all of the SIGs. We're going to be reaching out over the next couple of weeks and actually getting what they want out in the release notes. And that's more or less it. This was kind of a down week for us. The next couple of weeks start getting busy.
Nice. And I was traveling towards the end of last week, but I promise for sure that I will get the PR merged into the release repository with the release notes tool. I swear it'll happen. I just need to add some hashes to the Bazel dependencies because nobody likes pulling down dependencies that we're not checking the hashes of. Nobody's got time for that. Awesome. Well, sounds good. The next section was comms. Is there anyone here from comms? I don't think so. I don't see anyone. So basically, I'm not too familiar with the comms process. However, from what I can gather, it seems like they are pretty heads down on preparing the blog for the release blog topics, and they're going to do a 5-day blog series. So they're having a series of meetings about coordinating this, planning the topics, planning the execution of it. So if you're interested in this, then please ping Natasha who's in Woods 3 on Slack, and she will for sure add you to the meeting. Awesome. And now, Hannes, would you like to give us an update on release branch management?
Sure. So 114 Alpha 3 has been cut today, a couple of hours ago. So that's out. Before doing that, I wanted to give my shadows yesterday evening, my time, which is like noon to evening US time, I guess, a quick run through on what this means, because we don't give all the shadows all the access to all the things right away. So that means we need to pair on stuff. That went horribly wrong because screen sharing and stuff did not work. So what that means is I will try for the next things, for the next cuts, and for whatever we need to do to find a more US friendly time. And yeah, to pair with them on the actual thing. Other than that, what is interesting? Let me see. So there was a whole discussion about packages in the last couple of weeks, and SIG cluster lifecycle started working on the generation of the packages, and I linked the issue on that on where they are tracking progress in our meeting docs. However, it was unclear to me, because the thing is they already started working on that without me knowing or understanding. In parallel, I created a cap where I tried to organize my thoughts and findings, how packages are currently baked and where we might want to go. So I had the question, so what do we want to do with that? Do we want to like close out my cap and still just rely basically on the tracking in their issue? Can we, or whatever, what should we do about this kind of disconnect? And basically what Aaron said is, well, everything that wants to come into 114 needs a cap, full stop. Basically what this means for me, I will try to work with Tim St. Clair and Marek and maybe other folks in SIG cluster lifecycle to see what we can do. Maybe it's, I will help as much as I can to update the cap with what they are thinking, and maybe help them to get an exception for this cap, because we are already after the deadline for caps. So that's gonna happen in the next days. I'll try to sync up with SIG cluster life cycle folks.
Hannes, we also have a meeting in 40 minutes.
40 or 14?
40.
40. Yeah, if you could ping me the link afterwards, that would be great.
Okay.
Or is it the KubeADM office hours?
No, it's the SIG cluster lifecycle meeting.
Yeah, if you could ping me the link, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nice. So is the conclusion that we're going to go with the SIG cluster lifecycle cap and then make sure that it includes all the things that were in your cap, Hans?
Well, there is no cap from SIG cluster lifecycle. This is just an issue where they have summarized what they are thinking about and document kind of the process, but it's not a cap.
I see.
And
I see.
yeah.
But are you going to incorporate some of their like requirements into your cap or something?
Sorry?
Are you going to incorporate some of their requirements into your cap, or?
I don't know. That's what I mean. I will check with cluster lifecycle folks on how we can, what's the best way forward and what's the like way with minimum work needed.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome.
But I think the main point here is, yes, we need a cap if we want to have it in 114. And yes, we need an exception because we are already after the cap deadline, basically. And that's the things we need to figure out, how can we get both.
Absolutely. Cool. Awesome. Awesome. Well, that's all the roles. Those are all the roles for the release team. So putting my notebook away where I wrote down my agenda, my pencil. So this is open discussion time. So if anyone has open discussion topics that they want to talk about or things that they want to bring up today, now is for sure the time to do it. I'm going to mute myself and write notes for a second, but feel free to bring up any open discussion topics.
Yeah, as said before, Alpha 3 was cut today. Nothing special here, but this is out since, I believe, somewhere noon my time.
Nice. And I will just, it looks like a few more people joined the meeting since we started. So if you can, before you leave, just hop over to the meeting minutes and plug your name in there if you don't mind. Make sure we have that down. Awesome. So I have a question, Jeff. You said that release notes and docs met up yesterday, or were you planning to meet up today?
We met up yesterday. It was kind of weird because Lindsay was on the first half of the call and then I was on for the second half of the call, but we were both kind of mobile. So we didn't really participate. We more lurked and just kept an eye on things.
Interesting. Nice. Were there any conclusions?
As far as release notes go, not really. Again, it's pay attention. If there's anything that is outside of what they are planning comms-wise, let them know because it may impact what they do blog-wise. What I listened to near the end of it was Aaron was asking the comms people, specifically the CNCF blog people. Oh, sorry. This is the comms meeting that I'm talking about. Aaron was talking to the comms people about how to pick the blog topics and kind of what's the schedule for it? Like, when do I need to know what the topic of the 5 blogs is? How do we pick the topic of the 5 blogs? Does it have to be 5 blogs? That, like, you know, getting into the minutia of it. And it was pretty productive, I think.
So if release notes is to keep an eye on the things that docs may or may not know about, do you guys have any kind of plan in place for making sure that the folks in the release notes team, you know about what it is that the docs team knows about? Just
we don't have a plan right now. We didn't actually get to talk with docs specifically. It was a comms-driven meeting, and I didn't even see who was all on the call because, again, I was on my phone. So I don't even know if docs was represented at the meeting. I just know they were invited. Lindsay, do you by chance know?
I don't think that docs was there. It was Natasha, Claire, Caitlin, so mostly CNCF, and Aaron was there, and somebody else that I don't remember right now. But yeah, it was informative because Aaron has been talking about making the release notes kind of more suitable for a user to read than, I mean, if we just have a dumping ground of like all the work that the SIGs have done, it's useful for people that are contributors to Kubernetes to kind of see what different SIGs are doing, but it might not be so useful from a user perspective. So I think that it's kind of just useful to see what other people are doing to get the word out. And comms seem to have a pretty good handle on what users want to see from my perspective. So it gives us content to talk about in our future release notes meetings about how we're going to reframe things.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, now it's always been, I mean, it's nice now that we're so committed to enhancements because it gives us another programmatically accessible source to pull some reliable data about the release. And I think that perhaps, especially if we continue using KEPs to document everything that goes into the release, that it will be a nice place to pull some additional human kind of curated text about the various things that are going to the release. So that's awesome. Thanks, guys. Are there any other topics that folks wanted to chat about in our open discussion time today? Awesome. Well, thank you all for coming. If you have any feedback about this meeting, please ping me and I would be happy to incorporate it into future iterations. And I hope everyone has a lovely rest of your day and a lovely rest of your week. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.